Hello and welcome to another live coaching. I'm still in Hamburg. I want to know if you sailed this week. I want to know what's going on. Say hi in the chat. We've got a special guest joining us. So today is special, different than normal. If you're used to joining the live stream, then you know the drill by now. We go through the Facebook group. I answer your questions. We talk about whatever windsurfing topics you want to talk about. But today we've got a special guest. I'm going to bring him on. It's Sascha Lange, who, if you follow windsurfing social media, you've probably seen him popping up in your feeds. He's been very active over the last month or two, interviewing lots of other pro riders, going to the events. He's very motivated. And I met him in Gran Canaria, and we're talking, and he's got some interesting ideas about training. And I thought it would be interesting to bring him on to have a conversation. I've got some questions. We're going to learn a lot about windsurfing fitness. You guys can ask questions as well. And then we're going to get into the live coaching and the Facebook group. And maybe Sascha wants to join us, which would be cool. And he can lend his perspective as well to whatever questions have been asked in the group. Hey, Jorg. Hey, Ogus. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Sascha. And yeah, we're gonna get started here. So if you guys have questions for either me or Sascha, just throw them in the chat. Don't be shy. And as always, I want to know if you sailed this week. There was a little bit of wind around Hamburg, but I didn't sail. I've been really busy finishing the newsletter. If you signed up for the newsletter, it's coming out. It should be finished tomorrow. I'm pretty much done. And hopefully that means I send it out tomorrow as well. It's been great working on it. It's been a lot of work. And then as well, getting ready for Denmark. The master classes in Denmark start on Saturday next week. Next week starts tomorrow. So I'm getting ready for all of that as well. So it's been very busy. I haven't been able to take advantage of the wind. All right, we got a lot of people joining us. Max, John, Matt, Suna, Ragnar, Hans, welcome. So I'm going to bring on our guest. So give him a nice hello and any questions. Hi, Sascha.
Hey, Graham. Thank you for having me. And welcome to everybody who's joining us right now and who will join us in the future of this interview.
So, Sascha, you are a windsurfing fitness coach. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Oh, yeah. So I've been a windsurfer for already over 25 years. And I'm a trainer since 2009. And I was a firefighter for over 10 years back in the days. So I started a side business as a personal trainer in 2016. So I decided to go full at it. And I didn't know if it really could be true to have best of both worlds, or maybe have both things in common as one business. And it turned out to be the best decisions of my life business-wise, next to marrying my wife and having kids. But anyway,
so yes. let's dive right in, because there's a lot of information out there about fitness, about training. Let's just like fully big picture, what does it mean to train for windsurfing? Is that injury prevention? Is it less fatigue? Is it to deal with the side effects that windsurfing like does on a body, like for example the overdeveloped back? Like what are we trying to do when we're talking about windsurfing fitness for you?
So to me, it's actually that everybody has different goals and different issues to deal with. For example, like if people are living like me, I'm from Düsseldorf, Germany. It's pretty much in West Germany, but very in the middle. I have to drive 2.5 hours to Barosdam. Maybe it's known by some of you guys, but anyway, I don't score on a daily basis, unfortunately. So I know the struggle. And if people, for example, are called weekend warriors and they cannot score on a daily basis, I take care that those people don't start from scratch every day. So I take care of not having cramps or swollen forearms when they have made 3 tags. I'll
Right.
take care of those things as well as their general fitness. For example, if they have a special body composition, best exercise is I'm working with a lot of freestylers, for example, Felix Volkert and Leonard Neubauer. Leonard is like huge. He's over 1 meter 90. That's how much is it?
I don't know. Tall.
He's
Tall.
tall, and Felix is
6'3".
like my size and
Mhm.
very small, very, very small. So both are freestylers doing the same moves, but everybody's approaching their moves different, while Leonard can use his long arms and legs to go everything with power, while Felix, being smaller or shorter, has to use more technique. So everybody has different skills and a different body composition, which I'm analyzing to get them in the best shape they can be.
So
If
you
they
talked about forearm cramp for windsurfers who are not able to get on the water often and then go sailing. That is very common. What are some things that people can do to avoid forearm cramp?
For example, a lot of people are telling them, yeah, roll something up or stuff, a weight that's down, and you have a small bar or pole, and then you're rolling something up. Yeah, that's cool, but it's training the front of your forearm, for example. And this is for things actually that are pushing. So this is kind of not the best exercise, because usually, or better, is when you roll up stuff like this, because the inside of your forearm is how you call it, specialized, or it's needed when you pull something towards you, and that's what we're doing with windsurfing. Yes, you can roll up stuff like this if you're always a freestyler and you're docking and you're doing like backwind. But no, we're hanging most of the time like this, and we're pulling. So have things like this and roll them up like this. For example, if you're having, sorry, I don't have a boom right now with me, but let's say I have a stick right here, and imagine this is the boom, and you have grab the boom like this and open it, or move it like this. And yes, this can be very easy, but if you put a wetsuit or your harness in your harness lines, damn, this can be heavy if you do a bit more than 20 reps. So this is something which can be very cool if you're using your equipment and you don't need anything else. Yes, if you're using kettlebells, for example, I have a small weight over here. Get some strength, some strong and healthy wrists if you just move him like this. Of course, yes, you can move him like this also. This is also grip strength, or just having heavy weight in your hands and just keep them there. Maybe you do a farmer's walk and you have some boxes of water. Keep them there. And if the situation is getting disgusting and feeling ugly and your hands are getting open, get full on it. So this is actually what you can work on. You don't need a gym.
Yeah, interesting. So I gotta do a few shout outs. Hey, Jeff, Nicolas, Max, welcome to the stream. If you've just joined us and you haven't said hello, make sure you say hello and let us know if you sailed this week. So I've got something to add, Sascha, which I wonder what your thoughts on. So forearm cramp for me is the number one killer for recreational windsurfers. This is what I see as being the biggest problem. And it's maybe that's because it's the hardest thing to train for people, or they're not thinking of it. People go for a run or they go do whatever. So they keep a bit of cardiovascular health, but they're not doing the grip strength. They're not working their forearms. What I have been teaching, and I found it very useful when I was in university, because when I was in university, I wasn't windsurfing very much, and so I had long periods where I wasn't able to get on the water. And so this is actually a variation. It's not exactly what I did in university. I was doing pull-ups with a thick, like very thick rope. So a thick rope wrapped around a bar, hanging and doing pull-ups like that. Now, finding rope that's thick enough is really difficult. But what does work really well is a towel. So you can get a towel or 2 hand towels, put it over a bar, and do pull-ups like that. And if the pull-ups are too much work, you can just hanging from the towels, which I really find, like, where's the camera? Like, these muscles, like, I don't know where the camera is. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like
Yeah.
here, it's so important for windsurfing. Like,
Yeah.
this is what you're gripping with.
So yes, exactly. This is what I told you about. As windsurfers, we are pulling things toward us. And
Mm-hmm.
this is actually, it's a pulling exercise to do pull-ups.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's of course you can use every kind of, start easy as well. Yes, you can also use a small bar and just hang there. And yes, you will train grip strength and your forearm as well. And then as you're more advanced, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you can use those thick ropes. Or for example, there are some balls where you can
Mm-hmm.
grip on. There's the line that goes up and those are
Mm-hmm.
moving and you just grab those huge balls. That sounds crazy right
I
now.
know what you mean. Yeah,
you
I know
know
what you mean.
but yes, this is grip strength. And as wider your hands get, the more you activate your forearms. So this is why you're using thick ropes instead of
Mm-hmm.
slim rope.
And also why having a narrow boom is easier on your forearms, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
diameter of the boom. Like, now skinny booms are a lot more common, and it's less work to hold on to for your
Oh yeah.
forearm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's one reason to sail on a skinny boom. Um, what's the difference between weight training or strength training and fitness training, like you're talking about here, windsurfing fitness training? So if people are used to sort of like an old-fashioned gym routine where they're doing um, bench press and squats and whatever, what is the difference between that and what you're doing?
My philosophy is more like windsurfing orientated. So we are not just having 2 sets of bench pressing, then have a 3-minute break and go to max rep it out, with 1 or 2 reps. Yes, it's cool, and everybody likes to lift heavy, and it might be good for your ego, and you feeling well after you lift heavy. But anyway, that's not the deal. The deal is to serve longer and especially pain free. So we have to take care about all those muscle groups that are required to score even longer sessions. So this means not just training, if, for example, with weight training. So yes, you're bench pressing, for example. But if you're doing bench press with the kettlebell, for example, and you have your kettlebell like this, and then you're pushing up, yes, you have way more vibrations, and you're not as stable as with a barbell. So you have to balance everything out, and this will stabilize way more your whole body. And the thing, which sounds crazy in the beginning, but this is what makes people get it. Compare yourself as a windsurf unit to a car. The wind is the fuel, the sail is the engine, and your board with the fin or the foil is like the tires. And where goes the energy through? It's going through your mast foot
Mm-hmm.
and through your body. So you are the transmission who leads the power, the energy through your body, through your toes or through your feet, which is the last connection to your board to accelerate. And if you aren't stabilizing and you're not fit, so you will lose a lot of power, and especially in gusty conditions, you won't plane as fast as you want. You won't go top speed, and if there's another gust, you will stop again. So you have to be as stiff as possible, and it's not just about racing or planning. It's about wave sailing, because you are active all the time. You're moving. So I take care about the movement, about the flexibility, mobility. How can you prevent from typical, usually doing movements to get stronger in kind of stuff like this? For example, I'm also analyzing the style of surfers, while, for example, Marco Lufen, maybe some of you guys know Marco Lufen. He's one of my friends. He's doing everything with power. Like, he doesn't care if there's how strong the wind is. He's just pushing the sail against the wind to throw a Pasco or whatever. While Lennart is a totally different breed, let's say it this way, because he's kind of using the dramatic of his face, because everything he's throwing his head like this. And yes, if you are like this and you're training and your style is like this, for example, if he's in a Spock into Kulo, he did the Spock, he has the sail like this, and then it's very dramatic if you watch it on slow motion. He throws his head like this into the direction he's jumping, while Marco would only do it with full power. And he's using also his techniques and his long arms, and look where he jumps first. And if you train your neck, for example, very strong, so you can even move your head quicker, this means you're looking faster, and this gets everything faster. I'm analyzing those moves, as I said, the skills on the water, and as well the body composition.
Right. So, all right, lots of questions. We've got a few questions from the audience. First of all, we've got a question from Ogus and then a question from John. So Ogus asks, any suggestions about permanent calluses? So this, I'm not sure if this is in your area of expertise or not. If it's not, that's also fine. He says, I shave them regularly, but my flesh is still solid, and if I sail too much, there's blood dots under the skin. It hurts a lot after that. So, Sascha, I wonder if you have an answer for this. I'll just say, first of all, I'm not sure about shaving calluses. I have a lot of calluses on my hands from years and years of windsurfing, and I've never shaved them. What I do sometimes, and I've seen be very helpful for people, is a very strong hand moisturizer. So there are some that are made for climbers, like professional rock climbers, or for actual like cow udders, like where they milk the cow, and those can help soften the skin and make it less painful. But Sascha, I wonder if you have any experience on this.
Olive oil.
Olive oil.
Yes. Yeah. Just take some olive oil and rub it so your hands will get a bit more smooth. And yes, I have a I don't know what in German it's called a Bimsstein.
Like a something to rub it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where you rub it, and you just go just use it a bit.
Okay. I've never taken mine.
Calluses as I have.
I've never taken mine off, but if I don't windsurf for, I don't know, a month or something, then they start to fall off.
Yeah, of course.
And then they come off naturally. All right, next up, we've got a question from, well, first there's a few. So someone on Facebook is saying that climbers use very fine sandpaper to help take down their calluses. That makes sense. All right, now next up, we've got a question from John. He says, as an older windsurfer, I'm getting problems with my lower back. What do you recommend for strength and flexibility? I think this is a very common issue.
Yeah.
And one that seems like, I'm not a doctor, I don't have experience, but it seems like if it's left untreated, can have more severe consequences down the road.
Oh yeah, so there's actually different things what you're dealing with. It's a common issue that people have back pain who are office guys, for example. And why do they actually have pains? Because is it why they are sitting like this? It's just because the back, the fascias in your back and your muscles are always under tension. And while you're sitting like this, your abs are how you call it? They kind of shrink, you know, they build back.
But so I would say though that John, I know John is very, very fit. He does a lot of running. He does a lot of John, I think you're doing cycling as well. He's got developed abs. So I think that there's a sort of pain that can come specifically from windsurfing that is separate from just having a sedentary lifestyle where you're used to sitting a lot. And
Okay.
I think though that what you're talking about, Sascha, is right, that it has to do with the core. And I think there's ways to train your core or stretch your core that can help relieve that pain. Hi, Michael. But before we get into that, because I want to hear more of your thoughts, I think there's also something to be said for experimenting with the gear. I sometimes have incredible pain in my back from testing different things. I remember once, because I use shorter harness lines in Hawaii than I do in Europe, because I don't know, it's just different conditions. In the float and ride conditions, I ride my boom a little bit lower on Maui, and so I ride shorter harness lines. Whereas in Europe, with the different kind of conditions, I ride my boom a little bit higher. And so I'm used to riding 28s on Maui and 30s in Europe. And there's one time where I had my boom with the Maui harness lines in Europe, and I didn't have a set of 30s with me. And so I sailed on the 28s with my boom, how I normally sail for Europe and everything else. My back was so sore. It was so incredibly painful to my lower back. And I mean, that's a difference of, it's about an inch, right? It's 2 inches on the line, but of course the lines are folded, right? So what is that? That's about an inch length between the boom, which doesn't seem like very much. It's 2.5 centimeters for those of you who don't know inches. But that was a huge difference for me. And it was so painful. I mean, the 28-inch lines were so painful that I couldn't sail. And so looking at the equipment, I think, is also really important. So going a little bit longer on the harness lines is one possibility. That might not be the answer, but if that is the answer, wow, that's a great thing to fix. 2, it can be the kind of harness that you're wearing. Not all harnesses are the same, and not every harness works for every windsurfer. Some harnesses are stiffer and provide more support, which are better for some people. Some harnesses are softer and provide less support, which is better for some people. Like, for example, I'm someone who likes less support in my harness. Now, I don't have the answer why that is. And I'm not really sure. Like my first thought is, I have quite a developed back. Like my back from a lot of windsurfing is very developed. And so maybe I don't need that support. In fact, if I have a stiff harness, I do get a sore back because I get sore in the places where then it's pushing into my back.
It pushes you in a direction where doesn't feel natural for your body. So I'm also used to a soft harness where I can. I'm still wearing my. Where is it? I got everything right here. It's my thermoform. It's 18 years old from the kind. But anyway, as you can already see, maybe, right here, there's another bump. And you see how thick this is. This is actually my spine. Right. It already shaped to my spine. So it's shaped on my body composition, kind of. And I really like, but keep going before I start.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to say, is that you want to look at the equipment as well and the gear that you're using, because I think that can have a really big effect on it. We've got a few people in the comments chiming in as well. Max is saying that tight hip flexors can cause a lot of lower back pain. I think tight hips in general can cause a lot of lower back pain. One of the most illuminating things that I've heard is about what the core actually is. And we hear a lot of people talk about the core as if it's just your abs, whereas in fact, the core is everything from, like just below your nipples down to your knees almost. It's, it's this middle part of your body. It includes the hips. There's so much more that it includes. It's all connected. And so if you have tightness or weakness in your hips, that can also cause pain in the lower back as well. And it's all related to your general core strength.
Yes. So exactly. For example, when I was in Gran Canaria and Pozo, I sailed with rental gear because I didn't bring my gear, and the harness lines were way too long for me. And I also have short arms, and I straight away felt it. Even if I had my own harness, I brought it. But anyway, the harness lines were so long, and I have short arms. I was like always like this, and my body didn't adapt to it as it should be. So I also had a sore back for kind of. It wasn't that sore, but I felt it. So,
which is a really good example. It's the opposite way from what I described before, where I was on lines that were too short and I had the sore back, and you had lines that were too long and you had the sore back, which just shows, it can, like, the body is sensitive to the harness line length. And so if you do have pain, if you do have discomfort, that is somewhere to look.
Exactly.
So what are some stretches, before we got into this topic, you were saying that you're not just looking at strength, you're also looking at mobility and flexibility. So what are some exercises that hit any of those 3 points, whether it's strength, mobility, or flexibility, that would help relieve some of that pain in the lower back for someone?
First of all, think about your legs or your lower body is like the foundation, and it's carrying the house, which is your upper body, the whole life. And if this foundation is weak or has weak spots, the house will feel not as stabilized as it should be. So always take care that your legs are very good in shape. As you said, how was it named? Sorry, John?
John. Yep.
Yeah, John is also doing running. That's perfect. If your legs are trained, yes. For example, if you're just a biker, if you're a cyclist and you're always going down the mountains and you have quads like this can also lead to a disbalance or imbalances in your whole body. So you have to take care about everything. And yes, the movement is very, very important. And as you guys can see right here, maybe you can, yes, I'm pretty sure you can see me. I'm going down, like taking a deep squat as to the grass, kind of. This movement is the gorilla stretch. I'm doing it like this. I'm sitting right here. Have your back straight. My spine is straight. You see it? And now I'm grabbing the banana above me, and I'm looking over my shoulder. This is a beautiful movement to create some movement in your spine. You can also do it like this, and then twist. Stretch your arms and go into this direction and turn your spine. But this one you will feel more in your upper back. The gorilla stretch is more for the lower back. Okay. You can also do the perfect thing, for example, is the Romanian deadlift.
What does that look like?
But you have to be careful. Imagine. Yeah, you can see me. I hope everybody can see my toes.
Yeah, we can see your toes.
Everybody. You don't know. It's a natural thing. It's in your instincts. If you're carrying weights, doesn't matter if it's a waddle of border, a back, your surfboard, it's always about your middle toes, above your middle toes. You're always balancing everything out that it's on your middle foot. Sorry, not toes. Your middle foot. So the Romanian deadlift it's not a regular deadlift where you go like this. The Romanian deadlift is only about like this. You see, it's also stiff. You can compare to a stiff leg deadlift. You only move your legs a bit, and you only go as deep as your knees are. That you can go deeper, but that's fine because you want to activate your muscles in your back. Those muscles right here, those strips. And the thing is, if you're going like this, you see where the weight is and where my wait. Where my foot, the weight is here in this direction. It's way more to the front than on my middle toes, you know? So you have to take care that your back is straight and think that there's a rope tightened to your hips and somebody is pulling it, you know? Then because you have to create the room for the weight that it's going down. So you make it like this. You see, as my glutes are going in this way, I create weight. I have to see.
Yeah, we can see you.
I create space, you see? And then I'm going down. It's a very small movement, but you will build muscle. You will beef up, especially in this direction. This will also activate your glutes and your hamstrings. So this is a perfect exercise in combination with the gorilla stretch and just moving a bit. Beautiful. If you want to train your core in the whole way and not just your abs, you can also do the Russian twist. You take a small weight, you lift your legs, and you have this weight and put it always from side to side. You don't have to lean on something. If it's too hard, have your feet to the ground. But if you're advanced, have your legs up and move the weight. And if as far as you straighten your arms, as nastier the
more work it is, the harder
the more work it is. If you have it like right here, you can use heavier weights, but you don't have to use heavier weights. Make it more harder with small weights. Straight your arms, and you're also training straight up your arms. So I hope you get what I mean.
Yeah, I do. And just to add, that makes a lot of sense. I love the gorilla stretch, the Romanian deadlift. Those sound like really good solutions. I'll just add a couple other things that I've seen helpful in other people. You know, I've not had this experience directly. I haven't had that pain in the lower back. Dennis, who just joined us in the chat and had a session on the coast on the 5'8", Dennis, I hope that was fun, had pain in the lower back and was dealing with it through a lot of hip opening stretches. I'm sure other stuff as well, but at least what he showed me were certain hip opening stretches, which I think were really effective for him. There's a set of stretches that I've seen as well that can be really helpful for people who sit all day, that are sitting in chairs all day, right? Because then obviously your hips are not getting stretched, and like that's something I guess to look into or talk to you about. Something else I've seen useful in other people is just walking, just incorporating an hour of walking into your day. I think walking is a very natural exercise and can really help to sort of realign your body. Sometimes if you're doing a lot of other sports, it can be like a very therapeutic exercise, actually, just going for an hour-long walk. I've seen that be effective in other athletes who end up with little pains from doing a lot of training, and that the walking can be a sort of therapy for them. And then the last thing, and I saw this really helpful for my dad when he was having some lower back pain from windsurfing, is doing Superman style exercises. So those are where you're lying on your stomach and then doing different motions where you're lifting your arms and your legs. The most basic of which is just holding your arms in front of you, lifting them up and lifting your legs up, which is why it's called the Superman. But then there's a lot of variations where you're lifting your right arm and your left leg, and then you're alternating or reaching back and touching your feet alternating, which then is working those lower back muscles, which I've seen help people anecdotally. I've got another question, which, by the way, we've got Juso on Facebook, who says that he was inspired by one of your videos, Sascha, and he now has 2 elastic bands in the kitchen at opposite ends, attached one foot and the other I pull with his hand. So I haven't seen your video that inspired this, but I think it's for the forward loop exercise. Do you want to explain this exercise to us? This sounds really interesting.
Beautiful. I thought about it, as I always want to do exercises that are related to the move. So I'm kind of not just I try to think out of the box, try to be creative, not on drugs, but when I'm in the flow, I can be very creative. And I think about different movements that you have at home to create some movements, or to create movements that will help the real process. And when I thought about some people don't tuck in while they're looping,
right?
To me, that's the thing, is commitment and pulling like a maniac. That's the most important part if you want to do the first rotation. But if you really want to do like a planing front loop, especially in flat water, for example, you have to also get small. And as you want to get small, think about tucking in. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't have any sport pants, but let's do it like this. You can stretch your arm and then you tuck in. Mm-hmm. And if you have, as he said, that's perfect. It's a perfect example. And if you're having a resistant band on a door, mm-hmm. and another one in this direction, and you have the sling in your back, and you're pulling like this, and both mm-hmm. on the opposite direction into each other, then you create, and you feel the power in how you have to activate your hip mm-hmm. flexors and your abs as you're doing like this.
Right.
And of course, you can do it on the opposite side to also train the coordination and the balance. Do it then like this. And of course, don't forget the other side to do it like this. So it's right. also always about having a small task for your brain. Mm-hmm. Think about everything. So this is a perfect thing. I will, if I haven't posted it in your group, I will afterwards post it in.
Yeah, that sounds great. And okay, so this is all great so far. Now, do men and women need a different kind of training?
It always depends. As I said, everybody is different. Everybody is different. How they train, how they serve. Kind of, yes. I would especially, I would always start with high reps if I'm using weights. Because
for men, women, for anyone, you're saying
yes,
start with high reps.
Yes, because
okay.
as you said, someone said it, and I believe to that. I'm living through that. Perfect practice makes perfect. So as you're going through, and practice means repetition by repetition by repetition. It's like sharpening the knife, mm-hmm. always mm-hmm. doing the same. Mm-hmm. And also very lightweight can give you the exact how you say it, will put you in the right direction. If you're using heavy weights and low reps for the beginning, it can be heavy and you may be doing it wrong. Do it with
so you're saying the form is most important, and the way to get the form is with high reps in the beginning, because
always.
You can use less weight.
Always. Yeah. Movement over weight. Always. If you're in the gym, for example, that's always, because if you're going too heavy, it's not going well. And think a bit of it. You're doing the first rep of an exercise you've never done, like this tucking in movement. You've never done it, but this is in your brain. Think about the data are connecting, or the paths
Mm-hmm.
The path in your brain are connecting as you're doing it. And first, it's like a small path. Then it's turning into a small street. And we want it to be like a 6-lane highway where the data are just flying, you know? And as you're doing this and you've reached this potential, it's not like there's not something blinking in front of your eyes. Hey, you've reached the maximum God level of fastest data transmission. But as you're doing all those reps, it's easy to think about it. So it's easy for the whole body to do things like this. But back on the women and man thing, yes, I would always have the women on a bit more higher reps, because I don't want to fill any cliche, but it's fact that men are stronger and then they can take a bit more heavy weight. So then I would maybe go a bit low on the repetitions, but I would, especially for windsurfing, I would always go in the high reps.
Okay. All right. So we've covered a lot of different topics. If you guys have more questions, fire away in the chat. Whatever questions you have for Sascha, he's here to answer them. What I'd like to do now is to move into the Facebook group, go through the coaching like we always do, but with Sascha, and he might have some insights from his perspective as a windsurfer or as a trainer that I think can be really interesting. So I'm gonna load up the Facebook group.
Just one quick interruption. I'm just editing. I put a lot since I'm full-time personal trainer since 2 months ago. So this is my full-time job, and since then I'm putting a lot more work into creating reels and content. And right now I'm cutting and editing a reel about creating some more movement in your hips, as this was a topic 5 minutes ago, so I just didn't want to interrupt the atmosphere. Cool. But anyway, I will upload it in maybe this evening or tomorrow.
Cool. And if you want to join the Facebook group, so this is Sascha's Facebook group, you can see it which way it's here. It's Fit for Surfing on Facebook. And just give us, before we get into by the way, hey Rasmus, yeah, it looked like Silt could have been good today. So I think, Rasmus, you were sailing in Silt. What were the conditions like? Silt is such a funny spot. Sascha, just a quick aside before we get into the Facebook groups, have you ever windsurfed in Silt?
I was questioning my whole windsurfing career. For the first 5 minutes I went out on Silt. The shore break is like that nasty, and the current is that strong. It's it's not dreamlike conditions.
So I mean, that's true, but at the same time, you can get days that are really fun because the way that the bottom is lined up, the wave has a good amount of power, and so if the wind is not too onshore, you end up with really fun wave sailing. But it's not that common, and you have a lot of these days that are really difficult. I really like windsurfing in Silt because it is a test of the fundamentals. I mean, I like the fun days for sure, but I also really like the hard days because it's not about doing the most current trick, right? It's not about doing a wave combo where you do a 360 and a goiter and a taka on the same wave. It's like, can you get out? Can you get past the shore break? Can you find a wave? Can you do a turn on that wave? Can you do another turn on that wave? Great. and it's I really like that test of the fundamentals. So Rasmus is saying that he sailed at Hornum Oda, which I think is not on Silt. Northwest wind, mid to low tide, which I guess is starboard deck. Those are fun days. All right, so this is the Facebook group from Sascha. So you post videos and you answer questions in the group. What else goes on in the Facebook group?
So my being honest, my favorite channel to deal with is Instagram. Yes, you can also find me on Lange Personal Training there, and pretty much all my content, all those reels I'm posting every now and then. I'm asking, hey, who's there? Do you guys have any questions? What are your? I want to know how windsurfers or surfers in general, what kind of issues they're dealing with, so I can take care of this. So people are having a problem, and I'm trying to create a solution.
Okay.
Yes, of course. They I mean, I'm living. It's my job. I make a living out of this. Yes, of course. If people are saying, "Hey, it's great what you've done," that's perfect. But yes, if they tell me, or if I'm asking me, "Hey, do you need more help?" Of course, I want to help with them, and I want to work with them.
Sounds good. All right, let's jump into our Facebook group.
Perfect.
So you guys all know the Facebook group, but just in case someone is watching this who doesn't know, it's Graham Ezzy's Windsurf Coaching community, and it has really expanded beyond the Graham Ezzy part. I'm obviously involved. I read every post that's posted, but the golden nugget of this community is the community. You guys are so amazing with your posts, with your answers to the posts, and there's a lot of knowledge in the group. It's not just me talking, or at least I hope that's not how it is. You guys, because I see so many good discussions that go on, and interesting posts and interesting questions. I read everything that's posted, but my responses are not the ones that are the most interesting all the time. In fact, maybe none of the time are they the most interesting, but it definitely is inspiring for me to go through the comments and see what everyone is posting. So we're just going to roll through it. We're going to change this to newest activity. Thank you for the tip on that. You know who you are, who gave me the tip. And all right, first up, we've got Eric. He says, tax, watching the competition a bit. I don't know what this is. I got this screen grab, which really shows a position I've been after on my tack. Notice how the sail is oversheeted and leaning almost 45 degrees backwards or something. I find that when I manage to put my sail in this position, I get so much more space when I go over to the other side, and also much easier end up with my new back foot behind the front strap. So there are a few different aspects to what Eric is talking about. So I think kind of the main thing he's talking about is getting the sail moving relative to the center line of the board. And so you lean the sail over in the beginning of the tack like this to make room for your body so you can stand upright around the center of the board. But then, and this is how I teach tacks, and it's maybe there's another way to do it, but I think the easiest way is then with this arm that's holding the mast under the boom, you're throwing that sail across your body so that it's leaning over the other side of the board, the other rail, to make room for your body on the new side. A lot of what you're doing with the sail is moving it around to make room for your body so that your body is not having to go to the extremes of the board. Because at its most simple, doing a good tack is about being on the parts of the board that float you, not the parts of the board that tip over. If you're on the rail, the board wants to tip over. If you're too far on the nose, the board wants to tip over. So you want to stay where that flotation is, which is largely from the front foot straps to the mast track, or just in front of the mast track. And you want to stay in that area as much as possible. And moving that sail makes that space for you. So it's getting it over the board at the beginning to make room for yourself. And then when you transition, so here he's got his foot hooked around the mast, and then as he goes around, he's going to take this hand that's holding the mast and push it across his body. The metaphor that I like to use is like closing a sliding door. Now, I've used that metaphor in different courses before. Max, good to have you on the course, man. Take care. Have a good week. We'll see you next week, Sunday. The metaphor that I've used is closing a sliding door. That metaphor hasn't worked with some other people from Europe who are not so used to sliding doors. For me, it's the exact same motions, closing a sliding door as what you're doing with your arm here, where you're bringing that sail across your body to make room for your body on the other side of the board. So we need a new metaphor for that. So if you can think of a good metaphor of that motion of where you're bringing that arm across the body other than closing a sliding door, I want to hear it, because that will help other people learn the tack. This is I think good observation, Eric, and it makes sense. There's not really a lot to discuss because I think it's right. I think it's a good observation. I think people will benefit from that observation. Yep. All right. Next up, we got a question. Is it a question? It's an observation from Keoki that Bant Roediger is using a twin fin in Fiji. Yeah, that's interesting. So I don't know how to pronounce this. Sascha, how's your Greek? Can you pronounce this name?
No, sorry.
I'm sorry that I can't pronounce it. My Greek alphabet just isn't there.
No clue,
I'm sorry. But you are a very valued member of the group, and I wish I could pronounce your name. So if you are watching the live stream, can you please write out the pronunciation, or I can actually look it up after this stream. I'll do that. I'm gonna look it up. Or I guess maybe that's not Greek, that's Cyrillic. Anyway, let's get in. So he says, what's interesting about it? What's interesting is that not a lot of top riders are using a twin fin in the waves right now, and especially not for down the line conditions like in Fiji. 10 years ago, that might have been the case. Even 10 years ago, that probably wasn't, the twin fin wasn't very common. Around, when Cali started using the twin fins in 2007, 2006, they started to catch on and people were using the twin fin for years. But then some point around, I want to say 2010, the quads and the thrusters were dominant and not so many people were using twins. So this is interesting. Hey, Steen, welcome to the live stream. We've got special guest Sascha joining us. He is a windsurfing personal trainer. We just had a conversation about training, and now he's helping us go through the Facebook group and offering his insight as a trainer and a windsurfer as well. Sascha, what kind of boards are you using yourself? I don't know how much wave sailing you do, but when you are wave sailing, if you're wave sailing, are you using single fin, quad, thruster, twin fin?
Being honest, I'm that less. I don't surf that much in waves, so I still have a single fin. it's a F2 Gorilla with a zebra optic, and yeah, usually I'm a freestyler from the bottom of my heart, so I have an Ignite, starboard Ignite I'm using. So, but yes, I would love to get my hands on a new wave board. That will happen in the future, definitely. So yeah, it's not just about freestyling.
Yeah, cool. We've got an exercise from Ragnar interrupting where in the gym for forward loops where he's holding onto a wooden pole like a boom, jumping onto a soft box, and at the same time pushing the wooden pole forward while looking towards the clue and rotating 180 degrees and then jumping down from the box. Is mainly doing it to train muscle memory. And it was quite hard at the same time. Is it a good exercise? It's hard for me to visualize that exercise. I'd love to see it I don't know if Sascha has a perspective on it. One thing that I just cannot say enough, and Ragnar, it sounds like you've got, is that the forward loop is not a flip. The forward loop is not a somersault. The forward loop is a spin. The forward loop is a 360. If you're thinking about the forward loop as a somersault, you're gonna have a very hard time doing them and an impossible time doing them on flat water. It's a spin. It's a downwind spin, and that's why you look behind you. Like, I think there's a lot of people who think of it as a contradiction. Like, if I'm doing a front flip, why am I looking behind me? If I'm doing a forward, why am I looking behind me? But it's actually looking where you're going to go, because you're not looking, well, you are looking behind you, but behind you also happens to be downwind, and a forward loop is a downwind 360. It's a little bit corked, it's not a flat 360, but at its heart, it is a downwind 360. And so that's why you're looking downwind. So Ragnar, it's great that you're training your body to think of it as a spin rather than a somersault. That's huge just from the get-go. Sascha, I wonder if you have anything else to add before we get back to Bant Roediger's thin choices for Fiji.
So I've already read it, and I was first of all, thank you to get my perspective. That's actually that's a good one. Everything where you have your hands on like a boom or a stick, and you're rotating in kind of this direction. Also, if you're looking through this. Another one, make a roll on the floor with one arm, with one straightened arms, let's see. It's getting weird tonight. But anyway, if you are like this, you can also practice. Look through your legs. This is also kind of a way to look back. And as you are with your arm right here, do it like this. And then, it's hard. I have a mat right here. I can hurt myself right now. Could be. But anyway, do it like this. If I have a softer mat, it could be easier. But yes, you can think about this as well. As you're going through your legs, and of course, everybody knows our legs aren't where our arms are. But doing a roll and rotate into direction through your legs on a soft mat can help as well. But then it's not with a pull, but rotating like this. And yes, as you said, we are not rotating straight like this. We are more like a downward 360. This is why I'm doing like this. I'm looking more to this is why I'm not standing.
But Sascha, I want to interject for a second, and I want to say something that will help. Now, I have not seen your forward loops, and so this is unasked for advice from your side. So feel free just to dust it off. But I would feel bad if I didn't say this, and it could help you, which is one way to make your forwards more planing and to get more speed through them, especially on flat water, and to come out of them going even faster than you went into them, is instead of throwing it down, throw the rotation up. And so it's the same angle relative to the, if you have the level of the water, but move it up. And so you're throwing the rotation up and then looking back. And then the sail pulls you up and you get some float and rotation. And it's like magic. It's so much fun to do forwards like that, because you get this float and you can come out of them, bam, and just fly. And it's not a hard landing, because you have that parachute floating effect, whereas the more forward you're going, the harder your landings are going to be. And you can still land planing and land hard, but if you have that sort of lift up, you get these soft but fast landings. Anyway, I think we got a lot of good exercises. I like this exercise. I like the rolling exercise. Even if I think that the forward loop is a little bit more of a spin than a roll, I think getting your body used to these other positions is really good. And also just for the awareness, like doing rolls like you just did, doing
Yes.
somersaults on a trampoline are so good for training your mental awareness, which is just a big thing. Because when you start doing somersaults on a trampoline or whatever on a mat or whatever, you kind of don't know where you are. You get lost. Like you're not aware of where your body is relative to the ground or where you are rotating, which is a feeling that a lot of people have when they're windsurfing and doing a loop, right? They do the loop, but they don't know where they are in their rotation. And it's going to be really hard to land planing if you don't know where you are. But the more that you train your body to be aware through rotations, it transfers to everything else. Like having that awareness isn't specific to each thing, right? So the more you train that awareness on the trampoline, the more that awareness comes in to the everything. It's all related. So the twin fin is really interesting, Koki. I have not seen Bant riding twin fins before, but this is maybe something from Fleeka. This is also a quad board. I can see he's got the quad boxes, and so maybe, I don't know, he tried it as a twin fin and it felt good. I think that definitely fins matter and that your setup matters, but if you look at the evidence, there's a lot of videos of Josh Angulo or Kali Ciotti absolutely ripping on twin fins. There's a lot of videos of tons of guys, Polical, Levi, ripping on single fins. And then more recently, quads or thrusters. And so there are positives and negatives, but it's, I think, not so black and white. There's a lot of personal preference. I love the thrusters. It'd be hard for me to go back to quads. I used to ride a lot of quads, but there are certain things about the thruster setup that really speak to me. Levi is someone that goes between quads and thrusters. He's got some thrusters, he's got some quads. He rides a lot of thrusters, but then he'll ride the quads. And he's really happy going between the two. Brazinho, Marcilio Brown, rides pretty much only quads, and he just really likes the quads. And so there are different, and I like that example of me, Levi, and Brazinho, because we're all kind of bigger, stronger guys. Like if you start looking at like the Bant Rodigers, Camise, whatever, who weigh, a lot less than we do, it's a different comparison. They have less power. They're amazing windsurfers, but just in terms of physically, they have less power. They could do less weight in the gym or whatever it is. So anyway, but the point I'm making is, me, Levi, Brazinho, yeah, we have different styles, but there are also a lot of similarities there and very different fin preferences. So it is interesting, but I'm not sure if there's a lot to learn from it. So it's super interesting to see. Okay, I love that you pointed it out. I didn't notice it. I saw this picture that it came up on Instagram and I didn't notice it. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got a question from Fabian. Great question. I love this question. US Cup versus Europin. It's just so simple and it says so much. So if you don't know what we're talking about, this is what we're talking about. On the left is the Europin and on the right is the US Cup. So Sascha, what do you use?
I use the single one, the Europin.
The pin. I think most people do. Most people around the world, even in the US, probably most people are using a pin now. So I don't even know if it makes sense to call it a Euro pin. It's just the pin. I use a US Cup and I'm happy with the US Cup. I started windsurfing with the US Cup. For me, at a certain point, I felt like maybe it was a little bit safer. I've seen a few pins accidentally come undone, but I don't know if that's the case or not. a few things. If you're using a tendon, so this is with the hourglass. I don't use an hourglass, so I'm not an expert on them with how often you need to change them. But with the tendon, you need to change the tendon every couple of years. One thing that's maybe not intuitive is that the tendons do have a shelf life. So that means that even if you're not using them, if they're stored in your garage or in your house or in your car, they will go bad eventually. So you don't want to buy a big stockpile of tendons to then replace in your bases, because they'll all start to go bad around the same time. If you do have extra tendons, you can extend their life by storing them in the freezer. I'm not sure if that has to do with the temperature or with the oxygen levels there. If there are any material scientists that want to enlighten us, I'd be very curious why the urethane lasts longer in the freezer than it does in your garage. But anyway, you can store it in your freezer, make it last longer. But for the US Cup, I do recommend, it depends how heavy you're using it, but I do recommend changing the whole unit somewhat regularly. That's not every year, but maybe it's every 10 years, because these pieces here can start to wear, or the plastic around them can start to wear. So I change my whole unit every 2 to 3 years, because I windsurf a lot, and I'm putting very heavy use on. And the bigger the waves you're in, the more it's pulling on the whole thing, the more you're gonna have an issue. So Rasmus is saying that the softeners evaporate less when it's in the freezer. So that makes sense. So it has to do with evaporation. And then if it's not soft, it becomes brittle, and that's when it breaks. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, let's go back to the group. So I love this kind of just good general discussion. We've got a lot of different things. One last thing I would say is that, the base is a hugely important part of your equipment, and you want to make sure that it is in good condition, that it screws on fine. I've seen some pins unscrew from the base. You just want to make sure that it is in good working shape, because getting your sail disconnected from your board is not something you want to happen. All right, next up, do you sail with boots? Why or why not? We've got over 100 comments on this. I love that. A lot of discussion. Sascha, boots or no boots?
I'm actually, if it's warm, of course, I'm a no boot guy. But where I'm going out on the water, there's always rocks, kind of. And I had one thing at my home spot back in the day, which is the Verzemeer. It's a flat water freestyle spot, or a flat water spot. And I landed, and I was like, I had shoes because it was that cold already. And I was stuck to the ground, kind of, because I had a crash. And I lifted up, and this is no shit, I had a nail between my big toe and the other ones, like this. Wow. I had a nail through my feet, and there was a piece of wood stuck on it. So I was that lucky. So, but anyway, it was just it attached to my foot, kind of, because I'm wearing shoes. But when I was in my youth, I was like, wanted to be a badass guy, and I sailed with like 7 degrees water. I still didn't wear any shoes. But right now I'm a bit more comfy, and I feel good when I'm using shoes.
Yeah, I don't use shoes, and I'm not trying to be a badass. I just didn't grow up with them, and so I'm really not used to them. I have a pair of Aton split toe boots, and I will wear those if it's super, super cold. But even in really cold days, like I had a session on the Baltic Sea last year in, I guess it was in April. It was very cold, very, very cold, and I was not wearing any boots. And it was okay. Your feet go numb, and I'm pretty used to just getting cut up. But that's also something that you have to get used to. You have to get used to just dealing with cuts on your feet, which is something that I am used to. If you are wearing boots and you want to not wear them, like maybe because you're traveling somewhere warm and there's not sharp rocks or whatever, and you want to sail with bare feet, but you're used to wearing boots. Something that I really recommend doing is walking around barefoot as much as possible to build up some calluses, because that's, I think, one of the biggest things that then you don't have if you're wearing boots all the time is you don't have those calluses, and so then your feet are really really sensitive. So if you can go and walk around before your trip on the cement or on gravel or something that will help to build a little bit of a callus, that will make it more comfortable for you. Hey, Fabian, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're going long. We did an interview with Sascha, and now we're running through the Facebook group. We're gonna see how far we can go. Jacob is saying he's got a question about stance on the board. Attached are a few pics from a trip to El Medino, both cruising and on the wave. But looking at the pictures, I find that I'm standing very low, and it somehow looks wrong. Any comments on the stance? My first comment, Jacob, is I think your stance looks fine. You might want to lower your boom a little bit. The boom looks a little high, but here especially, I think the stance looks good, but I do think the boom could come down a little bit. For wave riding, this is the opposite for freestyle. I think for freestyle, you want to have a really high boom. For wave riding, you want to go often with a very low boom, which helps you get the sail bent over, which again is the opposite of what you want to do with freestyle. Freestyle, you want the mass more or less perpendicular with the board, body perpendicular with the board to balance, except when you're throwing it for the moves. Whereas with wave sailing, you want to get the body and the sail leaned over to get that board on the rail. So really different dynamics between freestyle and wave riding, but bringing that boom down. So Jacob, I would try it. And with all of these things, I'm not saying this is the Bible, this is how it has to be. I'm saying these are things to think about. These are things to try. One of the most important things, even if you're a seasoned windsurfer, or especially if you're a seasoned windsurfer, is getting in that variation. And so, for example, I'll sail sometimes with my boom 2-3 centimeters higher than I normally ride it, or 2 centimeters lower than I normally ride it, so that I don't get stuck in this rut where I'm only able to sail with my boom exactly in the place where I always sail. And you'll find that there are different advantages and disadvantages to having the boom higher and having it lower. And the more you do that practice, the more you do that changing, the more you realize what is happening. And so then you can go out on a day where maybe you feel a little bit off, you feel a little bit funky. And then instead of just feeling like, oh, it's the conditions, or oh, it's me, you can feel like, oh, maybe I need to just raise my boom a little bit. And that will give me the feeling that I'm looking for. Or I need to lower my boom a little bit, and that will give me the feeling that I'm looking for. So doing that work is really important for everyone to do. But I think that this looks fine. There's the main thing, Jacob, is try lowering your boom. And the second thing, and this relates to something that Sascha said, which I think is really key, is your body is an important part of the sailing boat that you're on, right? So Sascha used the car analogy. And you're a boat also, which is something I love about windsurfing, is that you are a boat, and like your body is part of that boat. And if you're floppy or not rigid or not strong enough, you're not going to be able to transfer the energy from the sail into board speed. And so I'm just saying what Sascha already said, but getting a firm body, strong body, helps transfer that power into your board. So if you're blasting along going straight, one thing that will help you go faster is to really push on your legs and try to straighten your legs. Like if you look at slalom racers or speed sailors, when they're trying to go really fast, they've got their legs straight and like strong straight, like they're flexed, they're straight, and they're pushing on the board with the toes pushing down to keep the board flat. and try to just get all of that energy transferred on the board to fly over the water. Now, sometimes those legs will have to bend to absorb chop or something, but it's a good exercise. It's a really good exercise. This is actually something that's going in the newsletter. For those of you who have signed up for the newsletter, if you haven't, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, the link is somewhere in the description of this post. But it's, really pushing on those legs, thinking of your body as being an important piece of that sailboat, and you've got to transfer that energy from the sail to the board, and you do that by being firm and stiff and strong. I don't know, Sascha, do you have a comment on that?
The first picture I'm thinking about of this on the left on top. The first thought that popped up was he's underpowered.
It can be.
He doesn't have that much wind, so he's and even not dropping down a wave. So he's like, oh, that's. And yes, the second thought was, hey, the boom is too high. That's what my thought was as well. If it's just planing, and I'm looking at the last picture, yes, maybe that would be like, I would put the harness lines a bit more back to cheat in the sail a bit more. First thought, and straighten the legs a bit more. But I don't know the way he wants to go.
That's interesting. I like that with the harness lines. I think that's also something that's interesting to try. The only thing about this picture is, Jacob might be underpowered, might not be. He's going uphill here. He's going over the back of a wave. And even when you're really powered, sometimes that little bit of uphill can really kill your speed, kill your power.
The speed, yes.
All right. Next up, we got a question from Kevin about the shove it. If anyone's mastered the shove it, can you do shove its, Sascha?
Shove-its are a thing. Yes, I can do shove-its, but that's a shaka, actually.
Yeah, it is. That's right. That's a good observation. That is a shaka. Yeah, but do you have? We don't have to. So Kevin hasn't asked for tips on the shaka or the shove it yet, and that's something that we can talk about, but maybe at a future time. I wonder though if you have any interesting stories about learning the shove it, or about seeing someone else learn how to shove it.
Me?
Yeah.
No, the thing is, the perfect advice, not for the it's kind of carve into the wind, tuck in your sail, lean over it, but more to the front, not to the back. Just don't lean over it, more to the mast foot. Bring your weight, your upper body, more to the center of your board. And when you lift off, you straighten, you open your sail. And of course, lean forward like it's not feeling good at the beginning. It feels like when you're hooked in the beginning and you're like, oh, I'm going downward. Lean over the sail and open it. And then you get the pop to get the tail.
What I did to learn shove-its, because I was too scared. I didn't want to lean forward. I didn't want to go forward enough at all. So what I did is, and I don't know how old I was, but I was like, okay, I gotta get over this fear. How do I do that? And so I just stood on my gear, so not moving, and just fell forward, just plop into the water. Plop. And I just did that, I don't know, 20 times. And, just catching myself on the boom with my arms and just falling over forward. And then when I started trying the shove-its, then I combined that with the carve upwind, exactly like you're talking about. You want to carve. Okay, you're thinking about how hard you're going to carve into the wind. Go double that, right? You want to go, especially in the beginning, way more upwind than you think. And then that's what gets the wind right behind your sail, so that then it lifts up again. And as long as you're on that angle into the wind, the sail will come upright once you push on it. But even if you don't push on it, if you're going way up into the wind and you just carve that hard into the wind and lean forward, the wind will come and backwind your sail and lift you up, even without really pushing on. Just the weight of your body will be enough push if you're enough into the wind that it will lift the sail back up. But otherwise, then you're pushing out on the sail and it comes back up, lifts you up. But then worst case is it's not that different from doing it on, when you're just standing, then maybe you fall on the sail. But then the plus side of doing that exercise that I just explained is, one, you get over the fear, and two, you get good at catching yourself on the boom. So if you don't get pushed back up, if you do it wrong, it's not that bad. You've practiced how to catch yourself on the boom, and it's not that bad. You're not gonna crash so hard. Hello, Caro in Tenerife. Good to have you on the stream. So this is a little off-topic post from Keoki. Don't forget to invest some of your money that you spend on windsurfing for the lifesavers near you. It's good to have them around. Yeah, so this is interesting. I don't know necessarily what the topic is with the video. I haven't watched the video yet, but I will. Don't worry. But this really relates to different places differently. So in Hawaii, for example, we have lifeguards at some of the beaches. But for example, if we're going out at Jaws and we're really going to do a serious Jaws session, often we will hire someone to do safety. And so pay someone to be on the jet ski to do rescues. And there are other people that come into that situation and they don't realize that that's what's going on, and then maybe put themselves in a situation where they need to be rescued, and then someone else's safety has to go rescue them, which then puts that rescuer at danger, but then also puts the person who hired the safety person in danger. So this is quite specific to Jaws and these other big wave situations, which this is not most of the audience, but I think there's a trickle down effect as well. But if you are getting into that kind of situation, be really conscious of what the situation is. And if the norm is that people are hiring their own rescue, you should look into hiring your own rescue and not just assume that it's okay that they'll rescue you if you get into trouble. I think that that's really important because it can create a dangerous situation otherwise. And every other spot is different and it has its own nuances. I think it's important to think about safety. It's definitely important. This relates to training, and I think it's the number one thing that you can do for your own safety. Practice your swimming. Practice your swimming. Practice your swimming. Go to the pool and do laps. Swim in the ocean if you have an ocean that you can swim in. Practice your swimming. I'm really worried sometimes when I see windsurfers who get in really serious situations in the waves that are not confident swimmers, because it can happen that you lose your gear and you're stuck needing to swim. So practice your swimming, practice your swimming. It's especially relevant for wave sailing, but I think it's true for freestyle, any other kind of windsurfing as well. We're in the water. You want to be a good swimmer. Are you a good swimmer, Sascha?
I would call myself a good swimmer, definitely. I'm not like, I don't put myself on a throne. I've never been to a swimming class or something. Mm-hmm. Yes, when I was little, yes, but I'm actually a good swimmer.
Yeah, and it's a lot about comfort. I mean, at this, for what we're talking about, we're not talking about winning a 50-meter race. It's about being confident. It's being comfortable. It's being able to be in the water for 30 minutes or 40 minutes without touching anything, where you can tread water and swim and have that confidence, have that comfort. I think it's pretty important.
And breathing, don't forget the breathing, because if you're in a bad situation and in mast high waves or just logo high waves, you can get in trouble if your breathing is bad. It's not just the swimming, but then if your breathing is too fast and your mind is not on point and you're not calming down, you're getting into bad situations, even if you've been a swimmer for life. It's always what I'm telling my clients. It's not about being in the best shape as you can be. For example, if the athlete is in the best shape ever and he's a beast, but once that green flag goes up and his mind is not on point, he won't make it through the heat.
So one quick thing about breathing, and this is, I think, a little counterintuitive if you haven't done a lot of breath work or diving work or even competitive swimming, is that, I mean, there's lots to say about breathing, but the one really simple thing that I'll say, and this is such a good point, Sascha, thank you for bringing this up, is it's a lot about the exhale, the breathing out. Because if you don't breathe out, you don't have room to breathe in. And so what that means when you're swimming is that often you want to be breathing out while your head is underwater, so that when your head is up, you're ready to take in oxygen. Because if you're having to breathe out and in while your head is up, it can take too long. And making sure that you're expelling that CO2 so you can bring in new oxygen is really important. So make sure, by focusing on doing good solid exhales, which is maybe the less counterintuitive part, you can make sure that then you're doing good inhales, right? So that the exhale, the breathing out, is very important for breathing in.
Yeah, exactly. One thing to not everybody is into meditation, for example, but meditation is actually creating awareness. It doesn't have to be this esoteric stuff. It can be a performance enhancer. And if you're into, just listen to your breath, your breathing. How are you breathing? Are your inhales, are they fast? Are they slow? Are they long? Are the exhales, how is the exhale? Listen to this and feel it. Just close your eyes and go through this. Just don't put any value in it. Just recognize. This will help as well to create breathing awareness. Just stand under the shower and try and breathe and just focus on your breathing. Nothing else. This is the first step for calming down in every situation. So this is a small advice I can give you.
Yeah, cool. And one of the things that you'll notice when you start doing breath awareness is that you don't breathe through both nostrils. Normally you're breathing through one of them, either the left or the right. And it can be a good breath awareness practice just to focus on your breath, realize which nostril you're breathing through, have some breaths like that, and then try and switch to the other nostril, and just sort of create an awareness of where your breath is in your face.
Yes.
All right.
If you guys, that's a fun one actually. If you have your finger up here and you have and you breathe out 3 times very hard, and you feel which nostril is activated. If it's, and you feel that the left one is, don't get me wrong right now. I hope I don't switch it over. I will look it up again, and then I will write it I will post it. But this depends. Are you in a flight mode or are you in a relaxed mode?
Oh, interesting. I haven't heard that before. Okay.
Yes. So this is a crazy one. I'm actually really into that, but now I got a twist in my head. So don't get me wrong. I will look it up and I will post it again. So this will, you can check yourself. Am I in a flight mode and I'm crazy about stuff, or am I in a chilled road digesting mode where I'm calming down? And if you're in a stress flight mode, and actually there is no thing to stress about, ask yourself why, and then the mindset work starts.
Okay, interesting. I want to read a little bit, get all the facts and post it in the group. This is super interesting.
Yes.
All right, let's keep going through the group. Moritz Mao, amazing pozo windsurfer. In fact, I want to do a video just about Moritz. One of the things that I found really interesting in the last World Cup in pozo is that, for me, the most interesting, the most inspiring, the most spontaneous windsurfers in pozo are Philip Koster, who is spectacular, and Moritz Mauck, who is also spectacular in a different way. and so creative and so talented and so good. Philip came first, Moritz came last, dead last in the competition in the World Cup that just happened. And so it made me think, like, what is the point of this event? Okay, yes, it shows that Philip's the best, but what does it mean that Moritz, who for me is, what, after Philip, the most inspiring, the most interesting to watch, that he's last place in the event? What does that mean? What does that mean? And I don't want to get into that question now. That's something to do on a video in the future. But Moritz, I love his windsurfing and I value his insights. It's great to have him in the community. Thank you, Moritz, for contributing. This is a very cool video that Thomas Traversa posted, windsurfing some of his older boards at his home spot in France. And if nothing else, the windsurfing skill in this is just incredible.
This is an experiment about trying some of my old.
The action in this is just crazy. And these are boards that are 20 years old, 15 years old. This one is 12 years old. But the action is just incredible. So this is worth watching just for the action. And it's very interesting as well to see the different kinds of shapes, the different years, and how they perform next to each other. So I highly recommend watching this video. Thomas Traversa, also a good friend of mine, amazing windsurfer, and yeah, just great content. There's nothing bad I can say about this video, this post. Just check it out, watch it. Very much worth it. All right, next up, we got a question from Artem. Hello, group. Questions about harnesses. My harness tends to get pulled up during sessions, becoming more of a chest harness than a waist harness. Using longer harness lines helps a bit. Currently using 32s, but I still end up finishing sessions with the harness about 20 centimeters higher. That's a big difference. He recently heard a suggestion to wear the harness very loose, maybe not even using the Velcro strap. That's how I wear my harness. Is that a solution, or are there other solutions? That is one solution. I'm not sure if it is the solution for you. For me, it's the solution. I like having a loose harness. I like having the freedom. And what I like about it ultimately is that if the harness moves up easily, it also moves down easily. With a tight harness, it can move up on your body and get stuck there, which is what you're describing. With a loose harness, and it doesn't have to be as loose as I wear mine, which is very loose, you just suck in or just push the harness down with one of your hands and it just falls right back down to your hips. So I would give it a go. It's an easy thing to try. See if it makes a difference. Sascha, how do you ride your harness? And hello, Dom Dom. Thanks for joining us.
I love to wear it tight. And what I thought about, if it goes up, it can go down as well. Because think of it, even if it doesn't look like, and you have like this buffalo hips, and there a lot of fat on your on your sides, doesn't matter. You're still having like a form of a V. You're going from a bit from tight. Some people are tighter, and you're going up, and then your lats are coming, and it's this. And even if you're lean, then your hips are very tight, and you don't have any buffalo hips, how I call them. But then there's the lat coming, like here, it's coming up, so it's getting tight and tight even more. But then yes, just push it and it will go down easier, because there's no.
I don't know. I definitely know this feeling, and I've seen it in other people where the harness can get really stuck up and it gets hard to push it down. I mean, I ride my harness incredibly loose. I mean, I could get out of my harness without taking it off. I could just push it down over my butt and hips. But I don't know. I definitely have seen these harnesses get stuck. Yes, there might be ways to push it down, but I also think try it looser, and maybe you don't like it. I know a lot of really good windsurfers that wear a very tight harness, like Sascha is describing. I know a lot of very good windsurfers that wear a very loose harness, like I'm describing. So there's a lot of personal preference in making this decision, and what's going to work for you. John, thanks for joining us. Have a good night. Have a good week. I hope these exercises and stretches work for you. I want to hear what you do and if it works. Have a good week. See you next Sunday. So that's Artem. That's the suggestion. I want to keep moving because we got a lot to go through, or we've been going a long time. I don't know how much more we've got to go through, but if it's too much, we'll get to it next week Sunday. This is just a really nice forward from Dennis. We followed Dennis's journey. I love Dennis's journey. Dennis, thank you for posting. Thank you everyone for posting. Thank you everyone for being a member of the community. And it helps create moments like this where we can share on everyone's journey. And so we've seen Dennis working on his forwards and working on his windsurfing, working on his wave riding. We've seen that over the last year, 2 years. And lately in the last few months, we've seen a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of really good moves. This is one of them. This is a great forward loop. So it's great to celebrate that journey, you know, especially after so many posts of not doing the loop how he wanted to, or not doing the wave ride how he wanted to. It's great to see that success. All right, here's a post from Ragnar we already talked about. I don't think we talked about this post from Nick. So it's about how to get further around on the flat water forward loops. And this is great. We've also followed Nick's journey. Nick, this is great. Right on, man. You're really throwing the loops. I really love to see it. You know, I've seen your journey from doing the first exercises to doing these rotations, and it's so cool to see. It makes me smile. I just feel my face lighting up seeing these. What the conditions you're trying to do these in, where it looks like you're on a relatively big sail, the water looks very, very flat, are really difficult conditions to do forward loops. These are some of the most difficult conditions. You really want to make sure you're throwing the gear up into the air, like I was talking about before. The feeling, as I would describe it, is as like you're small with your body, and then you're tall going into a big X, and then you come into a ball. And so it's your small to tall to ball, small to the X to the ball, and really getting that push. And you can work on your chaw pops. Working on the chaw pops can help as well with getting that pop for the forward loops, because there's two things really that you want to get in these kind of conditions to work on what you're doing, which is getting more pop and then getting more pull up from the sail. Working on the chaw pops, one thing you want to focus on is not just jumping like you would on land with both your legs, because that's actually not the best way to do the chaw pop. What you want to do is you press down on your front foot and then your back foot, and then you're lifting up with your front foot, and then you're lifting up with your back foot. And you're doing it, it's kind of like a skateboard ollie. You're doing it so fast that it's, you know, you can't have a big gap between those two pushes. You know, it's got to be more like a dance or something where it's like, but you push down on that front foot, then as the moment that you're lifting up with the front foot, you're pushing down on the back foot, and then coming up with that back foot as well. And working on those chaw pops will be helpful. And then the other thing is working on throwing that sail up, getting that big X, and then coming down into the little ball. I think Sascha also posted in the comments an exercise. He links to his Instagram, an exercise that you can do to help. So sounds like we got a plan. I can't wait to see the next videos. We already talked about priority.
Just one quick for
we
the.
already
for
talked
the
about this. Dennis
also,
is saying that the complete post is farther down, and it is. I know it is because I read every post, and I did read that post, and I don't know why we haven't found it yet. It's a comparison of port tack and starboard tack forward. So Dennis can do forward loops on both tacks, port tack and starboard tack, but he's more comfortable on starboard tack. But he sails a lot more port tack. He sails a lot more wind from the left, but he's more comfortable with wind from the right, and that has to do with his history with windsurfing. But it's an interesting dynamic, because a lot of people are more comfortable in the conditions that they sail the most. So it's interesting that Dennis is sailing more often in the conditions where he's less comfortable. I think, I've said this before, the best way to get better is to sail on your bad side, to sail on your devil stack. And so, Dennis, it's super cool that you're doing both. We talked about this video from Juso last week, where he's doing some great tacks. It's cool to see that success after they were talking before. Unfortunately, he hits a rock in the video. My connection, for some reason, this is kind of lagging, but slams right into a rock. Oh no. We talked about the backsides already, talked about Chris's loop. All right, so I'm just trying to find Dennis's post with the forward loops because I don't think we talked about it. And I'm not sure why we don't see it in the group. So Dennis, like I said, he had the loops from port tack and starboard tack. So let's see, this will be the last thing we talk about tonight. Let's see if we can find, I don't know why that's not here. Let's see if we can search in the group. So, okay, so this is a bit weird. So we found the post. I found the post from Dennis, but what worries me is that it wasn't showing up in the feed. So if I've missed your post, if I haven't talked about your post, it's not, or I didn't like it, or I didn't comment on it, or it seems like I didn't see it, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because it didn't show up in my feed. Now, I didn't know that was possible, that posts maybe wouldn't show up in my feed. It's just now I did see this. So it was there before, but now it's not, which just worries me. It makes me worry that maybe there were some other posts that I didn't see. So if you did a post and I didn't talk about it on the live stream, if I didn't like it, if I didn't comment on it, let me know or do a new post, because we don't want posts to get lost. All right. So this is in relation to the other forward loop journeys that we've been talking about with Chris and Nick. So this is an update on his journey. So this is, I love this detailed update. And, Dennis has been with the coaching for now a couple of years. He's been on 2 of the master classes, and I can really see that he's really picked up a lot of the self-coaching of what to work on. One of the things when you're looking at your footage is you look at your hands, you look at your head. And yeah, great. So good example of how to self-coach Dennis. So he's going to move the front hand to the harness lines, the back hand to the clip. Good. Work on throwing the rig more forward, looking back, or looking downward until the rotation is over. Yeah, so let's look at, so we watched the starboard tack one. Let's watch the port tack one. See the difference. So the only other thing that I would add to your list, Dennis, is you can think about getting some more separation between you and the sail before pulling into the rotation. So really getting that sail thrown forward. And to do that, you can actually sheet out a little bit in the beginning. So as you're coming up the ramp, you can sort of sheet out the sail to help push it up and get it up, get it away from you. And then as your front, where the mast track is at the lip of the wave, then you can start pulling in. So getting a little bit of that separation to then pull against will help give you more rotational power, a little bit of a cleaner rotation. So Dennis was saying that he just updated the post. So let me see if it then pops up in the top. Maybe that's why we didn't see it. So this is from 3 hours ago. Nice, Dennis. Solid. And this is on a 5.8. That's a big sail. Nice. I like to see it. That's a big sail. 5.8 is a big sail for doing forward loops. Like to see it. Right on, Dennis. Yeah, it's so cool to see this journey. And I love all the stoke in the comments. We've got so many people chipping in. Sascha, what was your forward loop learning journey like?
The best thing that helped me was to go as downwind as I could when I wasn't about looking backwards, and I hadn't the rotation in mind, looking backwards and not tucking in like pulling like a maniac. When I was just going as downwind as I can and try it that the nose is touching the water as late as possible. So this means that I rotated as much as possible. So that was, as you said, it was a spin. It was more like a Weimaru kind of. You know, a Weimaru is a flat water goose screw where you're turning in the wind and then you're just turning like this. But it was like this going up and then go as far as I can with the nose before touching the ground. And then it improved and improved and it improved. And then it was like pulling with it. And then I only start doing them when I'm on full power or overpowered. I don't do them on regular when I only have okay wind in my sail. I need power.
Yeah. That all makes sense. Dennis is saying that one of the things he's working on is getting more height on the flat water. So it's what I talked about with Nick, which is working on those chop hops and then really working on you go small like a spring, you're compressing that spring, and then as you're going off that ramp, you're extending, you're pushing, and then as you're going off the lip of the ramp or off the chop or off whatever it is to get your height, then you're pulling everything in, but you don't want to pull it down. You want to keep pushing the sail up, but then you're pulling that backhand in, you're pulling the legs up, pulling everything in and trying to get that sail, think of it like a wing, whipping sideways and pulling you up. All right. This has been great. We've gone long. This is a super long live stream. We've had people dropping out that need to go to bed. I appreciate everyone who's been with us this whole time. Thank you, Sascha, for joining us. I really appreciate you coming on, taking your time, and contributing. Where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Especially on Facebook, Lange Personal Training, on Instagram, Lange Personal Training. I guess it's Lange Personal Training on YouTube, where I only upload the reels as shorts as they are known on YouTube, but I have some things in the pipe that I'm doing longer videos for like YouTube content. But Facebook, Instagram, and langepersonaltraining.de on is my webpage if you want to look for, but it's make it as easy as possible. If you have questions, drop me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. Join the group Fit for Surfing as easy as possible. I will hit you up.
Fit for Surfing on Facebook. Lange, that's Lange, personal training on Instagram. That's where people can find you. You specialize in personal training for windsurfers and for everyone. So it sounded like for professionals like Leonard, as well as for office workers who are not able to get on the water as often and need a special kind of conditioning so that they are not sore and they're able to perform when they get on the water. So if you're curious, check out Sascha. He also posts a lot of information. So if you want to sort of learn more before committing to any kind of program, his Instagram is a great place to do that. Matt, thanks for joining us. And good night. I'll see you next week, Sunday. All right. So Sascha, thanks again for coming on. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you have a windy week. So Good night and goodbye.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, for watching. And Graham, thank you for having me. And talk to everybody. Hit me up. And this is a beautiful community. I never expected something like this, that everybody's interacting, all those comments, everybody's cheering for themselves. I was posting some things that I'm looking for clients or for interesting guys. I posted this in another just German Facebook group, and I was already I was bashing. People bashed me already and dropped hate. So I was like, oh, okay. I don't respond on stuff like this. I mean, I don't have time for that. But anyway, this is beautiful right here. And thank you for being a part of this one.
Yeah, man. Take care.
One quick thing about the front loop.
Yep.
I have a video. I found it. Me and the Yakla team in Pozo did that on Marc Paré. Mm-hmm. He actually wanted to go for a double, but he was that controlled. He still had the height of like 3 or 4 meters, and he stopped the rotation and landed. It's like very easy. I was trying to find it, and I will repost it in your group.
Post it. I want to see it. All right, everyone. Good night. See you next week.